You would have to be willfully blind if you don't know what Israel is doing. This is a war of extermination. This is a war of annihilation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming down in this weather. Our guest tonight is Husam Zomlot, who is the Palestinian ambassador to the United Kingdom, and he's also a senior Fatah political leader. He was born in the Shabura refugee camp in Gaza and is also a leading advocate for Palestinian rights. He played a pivotal role in shaping Palestinian foreign policy and engagement with the international community and leads diplomatic efforts in promoting Palestinian rights. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador Husam Zomlot.
Wow, what an energy. It's very, very energizing indeed. And my friends, students and scholars, distinguished audience, it is an honor to be talking to you again. Allow me please to thank our President, Ibrahim Muafi, and his team here at the Union for extending the invitations. Thank you, Ibrahim, very much. And we are very, very proud of you, Ibrahim, to be the first President of the Union of Arab Origins. Thank you, Ibrahim, for giving us that inspiration. And it is especially so since the young generation today has been at the forefront of opposition to Israel's actions in Gaza and elsewhere in occupied territory, as well as now elsewhere in our region. So it is indeed always a pleasure and a privilege to be engaging the next generations of academics, of leaders, and of opinion makers. From university incumbents to TikTok memes, it is the young generation that have stood up to be counted and have displayed the moral clarity and instinctive understanding of who is oppressor and who is oppressed. It is you, the young, who have rejected, even completely overturned, simplistic and racially prejudiced caricatures of the Palestinian issue as one between irrational and savage versus the civilized and democratic. It is you, the young, who have clearly understood that the history of our struggle did not start a year ago. And it is not definitely only about the last 365 days, but it is rather a consequence of 28,000 days. 28,000 days of denial of rights, of ethnic cleansing, of military occupation, of slander, of apartheid, and of deep, deep injustice. And it is you, the young, who have been most vocal in your rejection of your own government's roles in all this. Because you understand well that it is a result of near total impunity enjoyed by an Israel that has openly and proudly engaged in daily war crimes against the Palestinian people for over 7 decades. That has openly and proudly offered and defied global consensus to try to thwart any political solution that would grant Palestinian people the right to self-determination and return. And it has openly argued that it could successfully manage a military occupation governed by an apartheid indefinitely. permanently. It has done all this with the complete support from its Western allies and sponsors, leading us directly to here, where the world is watching its first ever live-streamed genocide unfold. Friends, the numbers speak for themselves. Over 42,000 people, or almost 2% of Gaza's population, have been confirmed killed. The vast majority are women and children. Many thousands lie undiscovered under the rubble of their homes, and the real toll is likely much, much higher. The Lancet, which is a UK renowned, respected publication, produced a conservative estimate putting the death toll, including those killed of related causes because they cannot get medical attention from famine and disease. They put the number at 180,000 who have been killed over the last year. That is around 8% of the Gaza population exterminated. And still going. And just to put it in relative terms, just so you have a picture, if you apply the same percentage on the UK population, that means more than 5 million have been killed. Or the US, it would mean more than 26 million have been killed. 90% of Gaza's 2.3 million people, 1.9 million people have been displaced from their homes. The vast majority to tents or ad hoc structures erected with whatever materials come to hand. Just this month, Israel issued new military orders for the north of Gaza, demanding that everyone still there in the entire area of the north, that is Jabalia, Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun, an estimated 400,000 people, they asked them to move. But no one knows move where, go where. Because all other places are facing the same fate. All other places are being bombarded, and genocide is happening in the north, in the middle, and in the south. Everyone, the young, the old, and the sick, are asked to evacuate. Sick people who cannot get treatment because Gaza's health sector has been decimated. According to the World Health Organization, some 1,000 health workers, that's doctors, nurses, rescue teams, have been killed so far, the most in any modern conflict. And not just health workers. The biggest number of children killed in any given conflict, in any given period, the biggest number of journalists killed, doctors killed. Just 17 of Gaza's 36 hospitals are still in operation, but with drastically reduced capacity. The last partially functioning hospital in the north, Kamal Adwan, was forced to close earlier this month. And last night, Israel bombed and burned alive sheltering families in the country yard of another last remaining hospital, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah. Indeed, Israel's latest aggression on Gaza's north prompted one UN observer to describe it as genocide within a genocide. And all this while the UN estimates that more than 22,000 people have suffered life-changing injuries for which there is simply no care. 22,000. Those are with severe amputation-like injuries. Israel has also deliberately targeted the education sector, underlining that its military aims are not merely about the present, but about the future. No one more than you here in this hall know that education is the future, particularly for people like us, but also for you. Why are you here from all over the world? It's about the future. Target your education and you exterminate, annihilate people's future. 80% of schools have been bombed. Every single university in Gaza has been destroyed, every one of them, leaving 625,000 school children with no education for the second year in a row. Industry, agriculture, public libraries, bakeries, infrastructure, international aid agencies, Israel has destroyed them all. According to the Norwegian Refugee Council, Israel is blocking 83% of the humanitarian aid from entering Gaza, underlining that civilians are clear and deliberate targets of Israel's violence. Why are you preventing humanitarian aid? And just yesterday, the Israeli government publicly announced that they will cut food supplies from the entire north. 500,000 people are in danger of starvation in Gaza right now. And some 50,000 children are in urgent need for treatment or in urgent need of treatment for malnutrition. Again, treatment that is simply not available, my friends. Israel has cut off electricity and fuel supplies and running water to Gaza. This has resulted in a spike of diseases such as hepatitis A and the re-emergence of a new strain of the polio virus in the pools of the untreated sewage water that flows freely amid Gaza's destroyed infrastructure. You simply cannot look at footage from Gaza where Israel has destroyed or damaged 66% of all structures. That is 70% of all homes, 80% of all schools, 90% of all hospitals, and 100% of all universities. And when you look at these numbers, 66% of all structures, and not understand what Israel is doing. You cannot look at the occupied West Bank and see the constant expansion of Israel's illegal settlement enterprise, the constant settler violence and terrorism. You cannot look at all this plainly designed to make occupation permanent, plainly designed to annex more territory, and not understand what Israel is doing. No one can claim they don't know. You would have to be willfully blind if you don't know what Israel is doing. This is a war of extermination. This is a war of annihilation. And my friends, perhaps most distressing to many young people who might otherwise have grown up with the belief that there is a rules-based order of law, and I'm sure many of you here are students of law, that there is such a thing as a rules-based order of law based on universally accepted moral principles that at some point would kick in and curtail this mass violence and crimes against humanity. Not only has global institutions so far proven powerless to intervene, they have been actively handicapped by the continued support of Israel's actions by countries like the US and the UK, which otherwise like to present themselves as guarantors of the global justice and stability, as the founders of the post-World War II global order. What's more, This support is lent even though Israel offers no political solution, no horizon, no pathway to peace, no future horizon that isn't predicated on occupation, on continued violence, on impunity from the law. If it all seems deeply unjust, it is because it is. If it all seems deeply unjust, it is because it is. And if it all seems deeply unnecessary, if it all seems deeply unnecessary, senseless, it is because it is. Because solutions and resolutions is well understood and simple. The resolution to this is so simple. Do not believe those who tell you this is a protracted, complicated conflict. This is one of the simplest ones. Because it has international consensus. Number one, there must be an immediate ceasefire, and this must result in an end to occupation as well. This has the backing not only of the entire Arab world and the Muslim world, but of the entire world, period. Everybody. It was most clearly expressed recently by the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, only a couple of months ago. And the ICJ is the International Court of Justice. This is the highest court of the land, of the globe. We established it so it arbitrates between states and between actors. So what did the ICJ say? Which was unequivocal in its ruling, in its advisory opinion to the UN. Number one, Israel's occupation is unlawful and must end. Unlawful. Number two, Israel's settlements are war crimes and must be dismantled. Number three, it is the obligation of third states not to support in any way or shape Israel's continued presence in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. Otherwise, these third parties would not only be complicit in genocide and in the war of extermination, but would be partnering, if you want to talk law and international legality. The UN's General Assembly overwhelmingly supported the ICJ position by a majority of more than 2/3 of the UN member states, and further demanded, that is the UN General Assembly, demanded Israel end its illegal presence in occupied territory in 1 year. 1 year. Israel has been clear it will not vacate occupied territory, has announced it, not by words only, but by deeds. And it is Israel who has defied the UN Security Council and the International Court of Justice, and the promptings, the whispering, the calls of its own allies and sponsors that they all demanded an immediate ceasefire. It has disregarded all that, defied all that. Indeed, it should be clear that Israel is waging a war not only on the Palestinian people. Israel is waging a war on international institutions, on the very system we have established, so we all say and stand and say it clearly that never again we will allow for evil to target people because of who they are. Never again we will allow for the carnage and the madness and the mass slaughter. Never again we will see these images of the Second World War, millions of innocent people, 85 million innocent people who were slain here in Europe. Israel is undermining all that, and we are letting Israel undermining all that. It has declared all the way, it has declared the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, as a persona non grata. Can you imagine? We've gotten to this level. What have we come to? Even the Israeli Foreign Minister yesterday, he tweeted that the UN Secretary General would not be allowed to enter Israel. Israel is shooting at UN peacekeeping in Lebanon as we speak. Have already injured some of soldiers. UN peacekeeping. It is bombing UN facilities in Gaza like last night. Yet another one of the tens of UN shelters and UN schools. Only last night and every day. It has even confiscated UNRWA's headquarters in occupied East Jerusalem, and it has designated UNRWA as a terrorist organization. Can you believe this? Are you in the same disbelief I am in? If you think Israel is only after us, think again. They are after you and everything we have built together. Are these not the actions of a rogue state? Rogue state? Why does such a state continue to receive the political, legal, and material support of Western countries? Why? And you are the Oxford students, and I see some Oxford professors and faculty here, need to help me answer that question. Every single morning, every other day, I hear Western politicians, leaders, senior officials, government officials say that Israel is our closest alliance. What kind of an alliance is that? What do you mean by alliance? Alliance for what? Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. We need to reconsider those who say so, their understanding of democracy and liberalism. And the best one is when they go like this. We have shared values with Israel. Can you please spell out what are these values that you share with Israel? Spell it out. Spit it out. What is it? The values of what? Of land theft? Of disregard to human life? Of mass murder? Of apartheid? What exact values do you associate with? And therefore, my friends, if Israel continues to reject the international will, then Israel must be compelled to comply. It's as simple as that, as has been the case for other state actors. They must be compelled to comply. Otherwise, there is no sense in talking about a rules-based order. And we should be, maybe we must be forced to accept that it is and will be the rule of the jungle. We should stop studying the rules-based order. You should stop studying it or even calling for it. If we don't enforce it right this moment, there are clear mechanisms for this, and to its credit, the UK government has taken some tentative steps on this path. But a partial arms embargo is clearly not enough. Effective measures must include a full arms embargo. Full arms embargo, as called for recently by France, by Spain, and other allies of the UK. And this should also include sanctions. We need to sanction the illegal settlers, the illegal settlements. We should never allow for trading with these illegal colonies. All the products of these illegal colonies must be banned from reaching the UK, not labeled. Do you label the ivory products? When a product is illegal, it is illegal. We should sanction all companies, including British companies, that profit from the occupation. We should sanction the settlers themselves, who are wreaking havoc on the rampage all over the West Bank, committing war crimes, committing terrorism against our people, burning homes and cars and killing innocent people, with the full tacit support of the state that sponsors them, harbors them. That is Israel. That is state-sponsored terrorism. We should sanction the fanatics in Netanyahu's government, the Kahanists in Netanyahu's government. There is enough in the public record, not only by words, but by deeds and execution, that will indict these people all the way to The Hague. And for the love of God, we don't understand what Western governments are waiting for to put these people on the blacklist, to tell their own people and the people of the world, we will not accept such hatred and racism coming out of the mouth of senior people in the Israeli government, including Netanyahu himself, and Smotrich, and Ben Gvir. And that also should include accountability. Accountability. Every war criminal must be tried and treated as a war criminal at the International Criminal Court. Everyone. No exceptions. No exemptions. No favorism. And I mean every war criminal. Not just the brown or the black or the Russians. Everyone. Everyone. The West also has war criminals. And if they are war criminals, they must be tried under the full force of the law. And I'm saying this because I was watching an interview by the ICC Prosecutor General, who said one of the most senior Western politicians told him, hey, remember the ICC was established for Africa and Russia. Seriously? Or when the ICC started pursuing legal tracks against Israel and on Palestine in general, investigating war crimes by anybody, the ICC judges received a letter from the US Congress, the US senators, and in the letter they told the ICC judges and prosecutors, you have been warned. Intimidation. Threats. And not only threatening the judges, their families. That's what we have built together. That's the system that will protect all of us. So my friends, students and academics, if there is no equality under law, there is no law. That's the essence. That's the heart. If there is no equality under law, there is no such a thing as law. Oh, you are too tall, I'm not going to give you a ticket. If a policeman stops you, and you are too short, you may take a ticket. You take a ticket because you are speeding, regardless of who you are. Where do you come from? Where do you worship? Doesn't matter to the law. If you are a friend or a foe. Seriously? So law only applies on foes and enemies. It doesn't apply on friends. That's no longer a law. That's something else. That's a plaything. The absolute fundamental principle of a just system is that law applies to all equally. That principle has been violated every day for 76 years in Palestine. So complete has the dehumanization of Palestinians been that mainstream media has utterly failed to present any semblance of a balanced picture as a genocide has been allowed to unfold without comment. That's the dehumanization of the other. All Israeli assertions and accusations, no matter how outlandish, from beheaded babies to James Bond villain liars under hospitals, if you remember that, have been taken at face value by the mainstream Western media. And they were looking for these villains underneath the hospitals and reported in headlines all these outlandish claims, propaganda, while Palestinian positions have been ignored, questioned, minimized, and editorial manipulations of language, such as describing 200 Palestinians died. How? They eating the wrong fish? Or how did they die? They avoid to tell you they have been killed, and when they tell you they are killed, they don't even tell you killed by who. playing with words, with terminology to blur the lines. Or they tell you the Hamas-led health ministry to question, to doubt. These are international numbers, UN numbers. And by the way, they are so underestimated. To discredit. Look no further than today's headline from Sky News. Israel, it says, has named the 4 Tunisians victims of a Hezbollah drone strike on a military base. Military base. Tunisians. As the headline goes, as at least 23 people were reportedly killed in an attack on a central Gaza school. The 4 Tunisians victims were soldiers because it's a military base. The 23 people reportedly killed included many women, many children who were asleep in their tents in a hospital country yard in Deir al-Balah when it was bombed in the middle of the night. But when you read that headline, there are children who were killed in a military base, and there are people. Do you think this is innocent? Do you think this just bypassed the brains of the editors, or it is deliberate? And fine, Israeli casualties are accorded space and understanding, names are attached, dreams of these people, which is fine. That's the role of media. And even sorrow, which is again fine, while Palestinian victims barely merit a mention, except possibly a buried paragraph in a longer article or a single column detailing the latest statistics on some inside pages. We are numbers at best. And by the way, let me make this clear. This is not just the media. This is also governments. Go back. Go back to the language government here use. Whenever Israelis are harmed, they come out swiftly. We condemn in the strongest terms. Okay, good. And when Palestinians are slain, slaughtered, go back to the language. We are concerned. At best, they would say, we are appalled. Why do you condemn the killing of innocent people here and you are concerned there? And this use of language tells you all that you need to know of the asymmetry, of the double standards, of the selectivity, of the hypocrisy, of the dehumanization, of what has led us to where we are today. And I don't think, my friends, I really don't think this is the world the young want to grow into. I don't think you want to grow in a world of hypocrisy and double standards and dehumanization. I really don't think you want to grow in such a way. And today it is the Palestinians that are being dehumanized. Tomorrow it will be some other nation, some other people, some other group, some other color. It is deeply offensive to the moral understanding. It is deeply offensive to common decency. And it has been completely rejected by a younger generation that takes seriously concepts such as justice, such as equality and fairness. That's your generation. We all need to learn from you, my friends, from you, because we have been watching you. We have been following what you have been up to. During the encampments, I went to Cambridge, I must admit. And I visited the encampment. And I found myself with a microphone. And it was a very inspiring moment. And I told them this. I told them, they call you kids, you are no kids. You are the leaders. Because when your leaders fail, you took your position and your place in history. They call you students when in fact you are the teachers of humanity, teachers of statesmanship, of how things should be done. We, the Palestinian people, are indeed very rooted, strong, resilient. We have endured an appalling amount of injustice over several generations. And I assure you, we are resilient. We will withstand this. We will continue being steadfast. This is not the first time, but we want it to be the last time. We want it to be the last time. Enough. But I can assure you the support we receive now from millions upon millions across the world marching every week, from university students and activists, and from the brave voices of new generations not prepared to accept to be cowed into silence, brings us unmeasurable strength and comfort and certainty about the future. Every action you make, every voice you raise, every post you share makes a difference. And I assure you, every Palestinian in Gaza, in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, and outside, follow what you, particularly the students and the youth, are doing. It shows us that there are those who care, that we are not alone. Not just about us, this whole thing. It shows us that it isn't just about us, but about justice and law in general. Those that have correctly identified our struggle as their struggle. Those who have correctly identified our struggle as theirs. And if there is a lesson we can learn from history, it is this. If there is a lesson we can learn from history, it is this. Whether from the anti-war demonstrations of the 60s and the 70s, or the anti-apartheid movement in the 80s and the 90s, the youth, that is you, are usually right. The youth are usually right. In fact, I'm going to replace usually with the youth, that is you, are always right. Thank you.